They've started the timer on me already, so let's get to it, right? Do you ever wonder what a band would feel like when they say, well, we've had the Beatles, now our next band is, yeah, well, that's the way I feel a little bit after following Kasudi, so, okay, people are really excited, right? Takes one to know one. That's what we used to always tell the kids in fourth grade, right? When they call you names. Takes one to know one. My purpose is to revolutionize the practice of psychiatry, psychology, medicine, nursing, and all the healing professions. To enroll and join others, and I certainly invite any people here of influence to enroll and join others in bringing a new level of thinking, new level of understanding, actually precedes the thinking, a new level of understanding and thinking that has ignited. That word has come a number of times this weekend, hasn't it already? Igniting. I was going to my last of 5 2-hour visits with Steve Hardison, and my wife was recovering from my wife Linda, who you're going to hear tomorrow, and the Beatles will be back tomorrow. There's been Beatles after Beatles, I want to say, she was recovering from a shoulder surgery and sleeping in a big chair, and so I was sleeping on the couch voluntarily for a reason this time. No. I was sleeping on the couch, and so that when she waked up to go to the restroom, that I'd be able to be there to help her back into her chair. And as we came back about 1:45 in the morning, and I'm going that morning to my last visit with Steve, I have this coming through me that you're going to ignite a healthy, healing fire. I thought, really? And I kept going, and so finally I got up, and I went to my office, and I wrote it down to help ignite a healthy, healing fire that's going to bring miraculous, emotional, and physical relief to millions, and now after Kasudi's, maybe billions of people throughout the world. It's already started. That's my mission. I've done my talk. I got up this morning at about 2:45, and I spent 15 minutes just kind of, and then with my Drake University t-shirt on, where my dad played football back in the 30s, almost 90 years ago. I had my little Drake t-shirt on, and I did turn on my thing, and I zoomed for 30 minutes, and I did it, and I never got to one story. So I've been told that one of the there's power in story. So I'm going to go right to the stories. I'm going to go right to the stories. So I'm going to take you back, ask you to come with me back. This is kind of a trailer, if you will, that I'm going to do this morning because for 24 minutes and 46 more seconds. For this year, I'm going to do a 54-hour course that's online, three groups of 18, and then I'm going to do an 8-day live course in North Phoenix in first 2 weeks in June. And I initially thought them as legacy courses, but it's not about Bill Pettit leaving a legacy. I love our mutual friend, which I've only known for about 3 years, Steve Chandler, was asked one time, how do you want to be remembered? And if those people that know Steve, not surprised, he said, why would I want to be remembered? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, so these courses are not about me, but even if it's 50 years after I'm gone and passed through the veil and back home from where I came. Even if it's thin, my dream is that this will be in every medical school, every nursing school, every psychology school, every physical therapy school, every occupational school, every nurse practitioner school in the country and around the world. That's what these two courses are. They're not about Bill Pettit. They're about that I've been gifted to meet people like Sydney Banks, like Steve Hardison, that have allowed me to hear things from within my consciousness. I love metaphors. There's a river of wisdom, of love and wisdom that's running through the consciousness of every human being on earth. That's just, to me, that's just fact. No exceptions, no exceptions. Why? Because we say it, but it's okay if I come off arrogant. I am arrogant at times. I listened yesterday to all the beautiful people, and part of me is saying, it's simpler than you think it is. It's simpler than you think it is. So I'm going to try to make it simple. You know, if you understand any system, whether it's gravity, whether it's electricity, whether it's life, if you know all the components and how they work together, there's three things that are true. Number one, understanding a whole system brings simplicity and clarity to apparent complexity and confusion. It also brings safety. It brings simplicity, safety, and synthesis. Safety. If you really understand the system, you're unlikely to hurt yourself or anyone else with that system. We live 3 hours from Grand Canyon. If you have a little vibrant 4-year-old who does not understand gravity, if you go anywhere near that canyon, you have them either gripped hard in a harness or you're holding on to them for life because they don't understand. A sippy cup is one thing. Grand Canyon is another thing. Number 3, you can utilize that system to its fullest potential if you understand the system. And the word that came to me this morning, I love alliteration, I guess it is. So I had simplicity, safety, and then synthesis came. And I said, synthesis? So I went to my little dictionary at 3:30 this morning, and it said synthesis. It's when you bring things to the oneness. When you bring the thesis and its opposite, the antithesis, into alignment. And there's oneness. That's synthesis. I will say things, and it's okay if you don't agree or if it doesn't resonate with you. I ask you to listen the way we've been asked to listen, because I think God's given us a truth meter. He's given us a bullshit meter, too. And even when we don't understand what people are saying, that truth meter resonates, or that bullshit meter. I don't know what he's saying, but I know it's bullshit. And I'm asking you to listen from that place. If I say anything, even though it may be different from what you've believed up to this point in time, and my purpose is not to change anybody's beliefs. My purpose, is there any water nearby? I didn't. I apologize. I didn't think to ask. My purpose is to help people love more maturely in the world. Period. Period. Starts with me. It starts with me. The title of my thing is Power of Mind. I'm going to suggest to you that mind, God, and love are the same thing. called by different names. That they're synonymous. That the essence of creation is love, unconditional love. Did you know that if there was people say, oh, yeah, really? I say, well, if there was an organization in all 195 countries, thank you so much, all 195 countries in the world that was based on unconditional love, would that at least be circumstantial evidence that love was at the basis of, as if we don't have other evidence? People say, well, yeah, maybe. What's the name of the organization? I said, well, it's called grandparenting. Not 100%, but damn close. Parents, we all wanted to love unconditionally, but we had expectations and we were fear and grandparents just love. I probably met criteria for oppositional defiant disorder. And in 1948 and 49, the treatment plan for oppositional defiant disorder was very simple. It was wait till your father gets home. And as my father used to try to spank, he didn't assault me. He tried to spank the devil out of me because he believed in a punishing, judging God. When he said, this is hurting me more than it's hurting you, there's my 8-year-old inside, I'm thinking, you want to change places? Right? Yeah. But I didn't. I was smart enough to not do that. But I think it was true. So I've got 17 minutes, so I'm going to go from there. I think God is love. I think there is nothing that is separate from what God is. I think God is a wholeness, is a oneness, is the energy of all things in form or formless. That's just mine. I'd rather be wrong as an optimist when I die than right as a pessimist. I don't know who said that, but if we look around here right now, anything we see, anybody, anywhere, everything, including ourselves, are made of atoms. Around every atom, there are electrons going 3/4 the speed of light. Where you fill in the blank, is that coming from? We are not separate from that which we seek. We are a manifestation of that which we seek, which is love. I'm going to give you a name because her name is Dr. Lisa Miller, and I'm reading her book right now. Her book is called Awakened. She's from Columbia University, and it's blowing me away. I walk, and I've got tears coming down my cheeks. Over 25 years, she's been looking at spiritual awareness and how it shows up on MRIs. It's the spirit, the formless, is showing up in the form that we're living in. We get this car to drive around. Some of us get lady cars. Some of us get man cars. And we drive it around until we go back home, and it's the same energy. And I don't care where I had a man in Kuwait. He told me the second time I was on the Zoom with him, he said, I'm MBA. I said, MBA, is it like Masters of Business? No, he said, I'm Muslim by accident. And I thought, if I would have been born in Kuwait, what would I have been? If I was Israel, what would I have been? If I was whatever. We're all trying to seek enlightenment, whether we know it or not. I would say, not going to argue with this, Kasudi, but I would say 100% of people are seeking enlightenment, even if they don't know it. And I would say that enlightenment, what they're seeking to be the love that they are, period. It's not complicated. Okay, April 1st, 1983, we're sitting, there's about 250 people in a hotel in San Francisco. 3 months before, I've met a man named Dr. George Pransky. He wasn't a doctor at the time, but psychologist, he is now. And he told me there was a man named Sidney Banks who was a 9th grade education. He's from Scotland, born from an illegitimate from a teenage girl in Scotland, adopted to a poor family who was probably pretty rough pretty rough childhood. And he ended up in the United States, and he read 3 books after his 9th grade education. And he became a master welder, and he'd worked 14 years in a factory on the long Vancouver Island, which is 900 miles long. And he'd been there for 14 years. He was married, and he had 2 children, and he was not a seeker. All he wanted to do was stop bickering with his wife. I was in South Africa one time doing a program, and I had a bunch of Jewish rabbis and their wives, and I said, now, among the Gentiles, there's a lot of bickering. Does that happen among the Jewish people? And I thought people were going to pee their pants. They got laughing so hard. Right. So that's all he wanted, and something happened. He had an epiphany, which you can go online on YouTube, and you can go to the Long Beach lectures, and he'll tell about it. In the 3rd one, he tells about his experience. And he had this experience that lasted 3 days where he was awake, and he kept having insights. And at the end of it, he tried to explain to his family, and he was enveloped by a white light, and knowledge started pouring into him. And he said to his wife, he said, I've conquered this world. I'm home free. I've seen what people call God is. I've seen what life is. And I've seen how the two are connected. He said, do you know what this means? Now, can anybody imagine what this woman whose husband was going back to the pulp mill to work as a welder on Monday after a week's holiday? She said the words were terrifying, but his eyes were more crystal clear than any human being I had ever seen in my life. And I felt a presence in his presence that I'd never felt in the presence of anybody in my life. And it allowed me to say, Sid, what does it mean? And in August of 1973, about 50 years ago, 51 years, 2 years ago, Sid said, well, it means these 3 things. Number 1, he said, I'm going to be writing books. He wrote 10 books. 6 have been published. A 7th one they released 15 years after he died in 2009, just a couple of months ago. And I can't see Sundance with the light on. It's called The Great Spirit, and I've got one in this here to give to you. It's 46 pages. 23 pages are pictures from the indigenous people, and 23 pages are written, and they'll blow your mind. But that's it. I've already signed it. But anyway, so I'm sitting in the audience. I've got 10 minutes left, Bill. Tell your story. You know you're an Irish. I've got a plaque that says, you know you're an Irishman if you have absolutely no idea how to make a long story short. I was going to get DNA testing. Linda said I didn't need it. Anyway. I'm sitting in this audience. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm 41 years old. I'm now 82. I'm going to be 83 here in a few months. I'm 41 years old. I'm a psychiatrist. I've got 26 and a half years of formal education, and I've been going in and out of clinical depression for 20 years. And I'd seen 6 different psychiatrists, and they were good people. They were caring people, but they didn't know what this man with a 9th grade education knew. And I was sitting in the audience there. I was the national program director for LifeSpring, which some of you know was like Hertz and Avis. Anybody old enough to remember those ads? Avis is to Hertz. Well, LifeSpring was Avis to John Werner Erhard's Est. They had both worked together and been in a thing called Mind Dynamics, which is another story to tell on a different day. So I was the national program director and training director of the advanced program for LifeSpring Incorporated. Had been for 3 years. Before that, I was chief of psychiatry at the nuclear submarine base at Groton, Connecticut for 3 years. And before that, I was a resident. And before that, I was 3 years as a Navy flight surgeon for a squadron of pilots during the Vietnam era. Anyway, so I'm in this audience with my 26 and a half years of education, and this man sitting in a very comfortable chair, And within 30 minutes, 300 pounds came off of my chest. And I knew my days of depression were over. And here's what I saw. I saw that my depression didn't come from my circumstances. It didn't come from my genes. It didn't come from my wife, my job, my kids. No. My finances. No. It came from me utilizing this divine power of thought that's created the galaxies, that's been given to us to navigate through this spiritual experience called life. That I was doing this, metaphorically, 6 to 9 hours a day, slamming my fist into my head, and then wondering why at the end of the day I had another one of those damn right-sided headaches. And I didn't know where it was coming from. And I went to the doctor, and I said, Dr. Steve, my internist here, Dr. Steve Hardison, I said, Dr. Steve, I don't know why I've got this headache. It really hurts, and I think I need some really strong medicines because it hurts. He said, I don't know. If I knew what was causing it, I wouldn't be here. And in this metaphor, Steve breaks my right arm. Not that he'd ever do anything like that in his old days. But in this metaphor, he breaks my right arm, but then he immediately injects lidocaine, and so I come back 2 weeks, and he says, how's your head? And I say, my head is doing a lot better. Get the metaphor? 6 weeks later, whoom. Okay. So I heard, and I ended up agreeing to go across country from California to Florida. I've got 6 minutes. And so I'm going to tell you a couple of stories that happened. Halfway through, we went to Galesburg, Illinois, south of Chicago, 190 miles. I come to embrace my father. My father and I loved each other, but we sometimes couldn't even watch a sporting event without one of us stomping out of the room. I had learned in this very short period of time that anger nobody had the power out there to make me angry. Nobody did. The only person that had the ability to do that was in the same underpants I was in. I peeked a few times, not in public. There was never room for anybody else, so I knew who was doing it. I knew who was doing it. The other thing I saw is that my wife and I lived in different worlds. My late wife died in 2000. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman, just as I've had two beautiful redheads. They're spirited, though, I'll tell you. But she saw something that I didn't see very soon. She saw that this was a simple understanding. These principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. That the nature of God is that it's love. The essence of life is pure love. And the attributes of God, this is a theology, it's not a religion. There's no rituals, there's no dogma, you don't have to do anything. You can say that's bullshit, that's okay. The attributes of God are that it's omnipotently intelligent energy of all things, mind. Talk is the power of mind. It's omnipotently conscious, aware. Your heart rate is not, you don't want your heart rate to be the same every time. It's 81, 79, 62, 70, 78, 83, 81. If you go 80, 80, 80, you're probably going to die soon. People don't know that. Why? Because your whole intelligent energy of God is taking every bit of, in this form, every bit of information from millisecond to millisecond and beating your heart when it's the right time to beat it. It's intelligent, it's conscious, and it's creative. I had that part. Meeting with Steve Hardison, I came out of retirement. I have a clinic that I do by telehealth. And I'm going to make a difference until I die. I'm going to do the best I can to revolutionize, because too many people are dying and they shouldn't be dying. It's needless suffering. Needless. So anyway, so I start this. So I embrace my father, and I see my father. This is the first miracle. I saw my father through eyes of unconditional love for the first time in my life. Nothing was said. Nothing was said, but he told me more stories in the next 3 days than he had told me in 41 years of my life about his childhood and about his growing up. Okay? Second miracle. I'm at a state hospital. There's a 700-bed state hospital in my hometown, still at that time in 1983. And I befriend a psychologist who, I'll make this very close. I kept telling him, these people are perfectly mentally healthy. They're made of divine, they're perfectly mentally healthy. They just don't know it. He said, yeah, that's bullshit. You know, you're full of it, right? But within 6 weeks, his panic disorder disappeared. But he didn't know where it had gone. It had nothing to do with the lunch we were having 3 times a week. But he had me come in. He did say, would you come and do this group with me? I've got 22 schizophrenic men who've been in the state hospital for many, many years. They have this serious mental illness called schizophrenia. Would you come and talk to them? I said, sure. So I've got 7 minutes and 22 seconds. So I said, sure. So I talk, and I'm talking about these 3 principles of mind, thought, and consciousness that God has gifted to us to navigate our way through life. And the third Wednesday, it was 1 to 2 on Wednesday, there was this man over here, this angle, that had his chair askew. He wasn't fully in the group, and he had been talking quietly to his auditory hallucinations. He was on 10 medications, talking quietly to his auditory hallucinations, but it was quiet. So he started laughing halfway through the third one. How many people have been in a place where somebody starts laughing, not giggling, laughing from the belly, and before you know it, you're holding your stomach, your eyes are watering, and you're saying, stop it. Just stop it. You're playing, what's the comedian that used to, stop it, right? Bob Newhart, yeah. Just stop it. That's what happened. These 21 seriously, quote, mentally ill, me and the psychologist, we're begging. I said, what's his name? He said, Herb. I said, Herb, stop it. He didn't stop. I didn't have a time watch, but I think he went about 7 to 10 minutes. And he would have aftershocks. He'd stop, and then he told us later, he talked, which I don't have the time to do. He gave us 20 minutes explanation of what happened. I waited till 30, 60, 45, and I'd see him wiping his eyes, and he was breathing normal. And I said, Herb, would you tell us what was so funny? Picked up his chair, put it into the group. He looked at me like Steve's looking at me right now. Eric's looking at me right now. He said, Doctor, while you were talking, I realized that I've been making myself crazy for 47 years with my own thinking, and I don't have to do it anymore. Pardon me? I was shaken. I didn't sign up for this. I was shaken. I was told this was impossible. And then he told us. Now, when I saw that I was the one making myself crazy and depressed periodically, almost immobilized, I didn't see how to stop. But I knew that it was me, so I was hopeful that I might see. Now, if it's things I have no control over. But Sid used to say, Bill, you're going to point with your words. That's all you can do is point. There are going to be people that are going to see what you're pointing to, and there are going to be people that see beyond what you see. They're going to see what you see and see beyond it, and at that moment, they're your teacher. I didn't know that teacher would be somebody who'd been in a state hospital for 47 years, 67 years old. Took me 6 weeks to get him out of the hospital People didn't know what to do with it. I had to get him off his medicines as fast as I could, his 10 medicines, because they were now poison to his physiology. They had been holding together like glue the moment he had an insight. Folks, there's two different ways to see something. One is to read a book, external knowledge. The other is to access that divine wisdom that's within us, that is the God within us. And as big as the galaxies are, they're minuscule compared to what God has placed in our consciousness. But where do we go looking for the answers? Even, I'm going to say, even for our purpose sometimes. If we go to quiet, to me, the only person or thing that can cause me mental distress, again, where do you think it is? It's in the same underpants I'm in. It's me. It's me. And if I know that's beautiful. The next one I'm going to tell, I've got 3 minutes to tell another story, so I'm going to do it. I've got to choose real quick. So many. I know, I'm going to tell you. So I'm at West Virginia University, and I'm teaching, and I'm at the Sidney Banks Institute for Innate Health at West Virginia University. Long story why it's not there now. And so I'm covering for a friend of mine who was on vacation at the adult unit over at the University Hospital. And this young woman, the first woman that comes in that day, she's in a full-blown manic psychosis. People think these are real. I'd love to read you Tom Insel's quote, who was the national director of National Institute of Mental Health. He said, people think these diagnoses are real. They're not real. They're constructs. There is one cause of all mental illness. It's chronic mental distress. It's chronically using innocently the gift of thought that God gave us in a hurtful way. If you do it more than 30 minutes a day, you're going to move from ease to dis-ease. If you do it more than 3 hours a day, you're going to move from dis-ease to disease. Period. It's just the way the system works. Okay? So where was I? West Virginia. She's in a full-blown manic episode. She's 26 years old, has a bachelor's degree. She's married. She's got a 6-year-old. She's her fifth admission in 7 months. She's in full-blown manic psychosis. She's been awake for 44 hours despite 2,100 milligrams of lithium and 800 milligrams of Seroquel. Maximum dose. Still, because I'm okay with not knowing, I try to listen. I can't say, I've got a minute left, do the best I can here. I said to her, I went to, I don't know. Thought came to me, ask her to stop talking if she can for 45 seconds. I can do that. I asked her. Within a minute, she held up her hand. I said, you are perfectly mentally healthy. You just don't know it, Molly. You're perfectly mentally healthy. You just don't know it. You've got caught up and you've been giving attention to a lot of painful thinking. It's dysregulated your physiology. It's even caused epigenetic changes to where you can't even communicate what you want to communicate to us. But you are perfectly mentally healthy. 6 months later, because of time, she's in a nursing program, getting her nursing degree. She's off all Seroquel. She's on 300 of lithium. She's working on the weekends as a certified nurse assistant to keep insurance for her 6-year-old. We're doing grand rounds, doctors, nurses, everybody. I'm going to go over a minute. If the hook comes, know that my attention was good. And so we did it. Her panic attacks had stopped. She was doing wonderful. She actually presented with Linda and I at a 3-day conference. And so I said, are there any questions? And the resident said, Molly, what did you think? I'll end on this. Molly, what did you think when Dr. Pettit, in the midst of your florid psychosis, told you that you were perfectly mentally healthy? What did you think when he said that? She smiled. She was cute as a bug. She said, well, the first thought I had was, oh, my God, they have given me a psychiatrist that's crazier than I am. No shit. That's what she said. Now, that was brilliant. Was it not brilliant to be totally psychotic and to say, that's crazy? But then she said, right after I said that, another thought came from another place. And I knew that what he had just said was absolutely true. I'm going to stop on that. Thank you.